Hare Krishna. Hi everyone. Welcome.
Welcome to part 3 session of Selenium entry questions and answers. In case you have not gone through the part 1 and part 2, please check the description below. Let us continue with the questions and answers. What is Selenium? Selenium is an open source automated testing suite to test web applications. It supports different platforms and browsers. It has gained a lot of popularity in terms of web-based automated testing and giving a great competition to the famous commercial tools like HPQTP. Selenium has 4 components, namely Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium WebDriver, and Selenium Grid. Let's see the next question. What are the Selenium suite components? Selenium is a package of several testing tools. It is therefore often referred to as a Selenium suite, with each of these tools designed to cater to a different testing requirement. The following are the different components of Selenium suite: Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium WebDriver, and Selenium Grid. Let us see the details of each components of a Selenium suite. First one is a Selenium IDE. As we know that Selenium IDE is a Firefox or a Chrome plugin that we can use to record the user actions on the browser, and we can export it as a reusable script. Next component of Selenium suite is Selenium RC. Selenium RC will have a server. It accepts the commands from the test scripts and sends them to the browser as a Selenium core JavaScript commands for the browser to behave accordingly. Selenium WebDriver. It is a programming interface that helps to create and run test cases by directly communicating with the web browser and using its native compatibility to automate. Unlike RC, doesn't require additional server to create and run the test cases. The next component is Selenium Grid. It allows parallel execution of tests on a different browsers and operating systems by distributing commands to other machines simultaneously. The next question, what is Selenium IDE? Selenium IDE is an integrated development environment. Is a Firefox Chrome plugin. It is simplest framework in a Selenium suite. It allows us to record and playback the scripts. Even though we can create a script using Selenium IDE, we need to use Selenium WebDriver to write more advanced and robust test cases. What is Selenius? Selenius is a language that is used to write the test scripts in a Selenium IDE. What are the browsers that support Selenium IDE? Firefox and Chrome. What is Selenium RC? Selenium RC or Selenium Remote Control is also called as Selenium 1. This is the main Selenium project for the long time before the WebDriver brought up the Selenium 2. Selenium 1 is still actively supported in maintenance mode. It relies on JavaScript for automation. It supports Java, JavaScript, Ruby, PHP, Python, Perl, and C#. It supports almost all browsers out there. The next question is, what is Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver is also called as Selenium 2. It's a browser automation testing framework that accepts commands and sends them to the browser. It is implemented through a browser-specific drivers. It controls the browser by directly communicating with it. What is the difference between Selenium 3 and Selenium 4? We all know that Selenium 4 was released as a stable version on October 13, 2021. Let's see the difference between Selenium 3 and Selenium 4. In Selenium 3, JSON wire protocol was used to communicate between the Selenium WebDriver APIs and the browser native APIs. All the requests and responses communicated across the protocol were encoded and decoded. In Selenium 4, it follows the W3C standard protocol. So due to this, request and the response communicated across the protocol doesn't require encoding and decoding of APIs. In Selenium 3, we needed encoding and decoding of APIs because each browser was having a different protocols, different APIs which can perform the actions on the browser. So if you're using Selenium WebDriver APIs to communicate with the different browsers, we needed a JSON wire protocol to encode and decode the commands in respective browsers. But as we move on to the Selenium 4, both Selenium and browser development teams are using the W3 standard protocols for developing the APIs. So we don't have to encode and decode APIs to the respective browsers because all the browsers understand the same commands which are sent from the Selenium. What is Selenium Grid? Selenium Grid is a tool used together with the Selenium RC to run the tests on a different machines against different browsers in parallel. That is nothing but running a multiple test at the same time against different machines running on different browsers and operating systems. In simple words, a Selenium Grid is used to distribute your test execution on multiple platforms and environments concurrently. When do you use Selenium Grid? Selenium Grid can be used to execute same or different test scripts on multiple platforms and browsers concurrently so as to achieve the distributed test execution. What are the advantages of Selenium Grid? It allows running tests in a parallel, thereby saving the test execution time. It allows multiple browser testing. It allows us to execute the test case on multiple platforms. What is a hub in Selenium Grid? Hub is a server or a central point that controls the test executions on different machines. What is a node in Selenium Grid? Node is a machine which is attached to the hub. There can be multiple nodes in a Selenium Grid. What are the types of driver APIs available in Selenium? There are many driver APIs available in Selenium, such as Firefox driver, Gecko driver, Internet Explorer driver, Chrome driver, HTML unit driver, Opera driver, Safari driver, Android driver, iPhone driver. Which WebDriver implementation claims to be the fastest? The fastest implementation of WebDriver is the HTML unit driver. It is because HTML unit driver doesn't execute the test in the browser. Starting a browser and running the test cases took more time compared to the running scripts without a browser. HTML unit driver took a simple HTTP request response mechanism for test executions. What are the programming languages supported by Selenium WebDriver? There are many programming languages supported by Selenium WebDriver such as Java, C#, Python, Ruby, Perl, PHP. Which language is not supported by Selenium? Selenium supports all the major languages such as Java, C#, Python, Ruby, Perl, PHP, Groovy, Scala, and as of today, any other language other than this is not supported by Selenium. What are the operating systems supported by the Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver supports all the operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac, iOS, and Android. What are the testing types can be supported by Selenium? The following are the testing types that can be supported by Selenium, such as functional testing, regression testing, retesting, acceptance testing, end-to-end testing, smoke testing, sanity testing, responsive testing, cross-browser testing, UI testing. Integration testing verifies the interactions between the different components and modules of the application. How many parameters can Selenium commands have at a minimum? There are 4 parameters that you have to pass in a Selenium, such as host, port number, browser, and URL. Host, Java-jar, Selenium jar name, -role, you need to specify as hub, and the port number is 4444. TCP IP port number which is used to connect Selenium test to the Selenium Grid hub. Default port number 4444. What are the open source frameworks supported by Selenium WebDriver? Selenium supports many open source frameworks like JUnit, TestNG, Extend Report, Allow Report, Log4j, Apache Py, and many other frameworks. What are the locators available in Selenium? In Selenium WebDriver, there are 8 different type of locators such as ID, class name, tag name, link test, partial link test, XPath, and CSS locator. What is XPath? XPath is used to locate the elements. Using XPath, we could navigate through the elements and attributes in an XML document to locate the web elements such as a text box, button, checkbox, images, radio buttons displayed on the web page. When you use these locators such as ID, name, XPath, or CSS selector. ID and name locators will be used when there is a unique identifier or unique name available for that element on the web page. CSS selectors can be used for performance and when ID and name locators are not unique. XPath is used when there is no preferred locators available for identifying that elements. What is the difference between slash and double slash? Single slash is used to create a XPath with absolute path. Therefore, the XPath would be created to start the selection from the document node or stat node. Double slash. Double slash is used to create a XPath with relative path. Therefore, the XPath would be created to start the selections from anywhere within the document. What is the difference between absolute path and relative path? Absolute XPath starts from the root node and ends with the desired descendant elements node. It starts with the top HTML node and ends with the input node. It starts with a single forward slash as shown below. Relative XPath starts from any node in between HTML page to the current elements node or a last node of element. It starts with a double slash as shown below. What should you do when even XPath functions cannot identify the web elements? In the early stages of software development, developers change the identifiers and elements quite often. During the execution, the web elements may change dynamically and we cannot identify the web elements. To overcome this, we need to use the XPath access along with the XPath functions. The most commonly used XPath access method in the Selenium WebDriver are child, parent, ancestor, sibling, preceding, self, namespace, attribute, and some other methods. What are XPath access? XPath access are used to search for multiple nodes in a XML document from the context node or a current node. XPath access are used to find the dynamic elements that would otherwise is impossible using standard locators. What is the context node? Context node is a node the XPath processor is currently looking at. What is the difference between assert and verify in Selenium? Assert, in simple words, the assert condition is true, then the program control will execute the next step. If the condition is false, the execution will stop and further test step will not be executed. Verify means that there won't be any halt in the test execution even though the verify condition is true or false. What are the soft assert and hard assert in Selenium? Soft assert. Soft asserts collects errors during the test execution. Soft assert doesn't throw any exception when the assert fails and would continue with the next step after the assert statement. Hard assert. Hard assert throws an assert exception immediately when the assert statement fails and it terminates the current test case execution and the test suite continues with the next test method. We can simply use assert.assertTrue. What is the difference between set speed and sleep methods in Selenium? Both sleep and set speed are used to delay the execution speed. Set speed, it's setup speed that will apply a delay time before every Selenium operation. Sleep, it setup wait only for once when called in our Selenium script. And set speed method is generally applicable only for Selenium IDE and Selenium RC. We cannot use this set speed in Selenium WebDriver. What are the verification points available in Selenium? In Selenium WebDriver, there is no built-in features for verification points. It totally depends on our coding style. Some of the verification points are to check the page title, we can use the get title. To check the certain text, we can use get text. To check some attributes of elements, we can use get attribute. To check certain elements like checkbox, button, dropdown, etc. we can use get options, get first selected options, get all selected options method present in the Selenium framework. We can also use is enabled, is displayed, is selected method to assert the current state of the elements, and there are some explicit wait assertions available which can be used as a verification points. Most other times we can also use the testng assertions or if else conditions to put the verification points in the Selenium test cases. How to launch a browser using Selenium WebDriver? We need to add a statement like WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver to launch the browser in a Selenium WebDriver. WebDriver is an interface here. We can create an object of required driver class such as Firefox driver, Chrome driver, Internet Explorer driver based on our requirement. Instead of Firefox driver, we can also use Gecko driver in Selenium. To use that, we need to upgrade to Selenium 3.3. Let's move on to the next question. Is the Firefox driver is a class or interface? Firefox driver is a Java class and it implements the WebDriver interface. What is the super interface of WebDriver? Search context is the super interface of WebDriver. Search context is the topmost interface in Selenium API, which has two methods, find element and find elements. Selenium WebDriver interface has many abstract methods like get, quit, close, get window handle, get window handles, get title, some other methods. Explain the line of code WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. WebDriver is an interface and we are creating an object of Firefox driver class and we are upcasting it to the interface WebDriver. We do create a reference variable driver of type WebDriver as shown below. What is the purpose of doing this way? Instead of using the Firefox driver is equal to new Firefox driver, we are using the statement WebDriver driver is equal to new Firefox driver. So what is the need of doing this? If we create a reference variable of driver of the WebDriver, then we could use the same driver variable to work with any number of browsers of our choice. What is the web element in Selenium? Web element in a Selenium represents a HTML element. It basically represents a DOM element in a HTML document. What are the different exceptions that you have faced in Selenium WebDriver? Some of the exceptions I have faced in my current project are element not visible exception, stale element reference exception, WebDriver exception, illegal state exception, timeout exception, no alert present exception, no such window exception, no such element exception. The most of these exceptions are self-explanatory except the stale element reference exception. A stale element reference exception is thrown in one of the two cases when the element has been deleted entirely or the element is no longer attached to the DOM. This happens when the test case is executing and that element is deleted or not present in the DOM or it has become stale. How to handle stale element reference exception? First we will understand what is the meaning of stale. Stale means old, decayed, no longer fresh. Stale element means an old element or no longer available element. Assume there is an element that is found on the web page referenced as a web element in WebDriver. If the DOM changes, then web elements go stale. If you're trying to interact with a web element which is stale, then the stale element exception is thrown. Here are some of the solutions which we can try to handle the stale element reference exception. First solution is to refresh the web page. Second solution is to use the try catch block to catch the stale element reference exception and handle it in the catch block. Third solution is using expected condition.refreshed explicitly wait present in the Selenium WebDriver. Also, we can handle the stale element exception using the page object model. In page object model, we use initialize element method which loads the elements, but it won't initialize the elements. Init elements takes latest address. It initializes during the runtime when we try to perform any actions on the element. This process is known as lazy initialization. The question can come as what is lazy initialization? Then we need to explain that using paste factory init elements method, the elements will be initialized during the runtime only when we try to perform any action on that element.
Thanks for watching.